Everybody, welcome. We are right back into our budget hearings today. A quick reminder as we get going for those that will be watching at home, we're not building a budget today. This is not the recommended budget. This is an opportunity for 46 plus departments to come and visit with the commission, give a little bit of the state of their department and just educate us. Gives us a chance to ask some questions too, but it's really important that the public realizes this is not a recommended budget we're working through right now. We're not making a budget right now, just an opportunity to ask some questions and to get a feel for department heads. So that being said, Tom, before we turn it over to Louis,
I want to start. We have a new chief information officer here today. His name is Scott Wagner. I'm going to have him come up here so you can take a look at him. He comes to us from the private sector.
Vertically challenged.
Yeah. I should just give you the microphone and have you introduce yourself. You want to grab the microphone?
that'd be great. Yeah.
Keep me from having to do it.
Hello, I'm Scott Wagner. I'm your CIO.
Welcome. Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah.
So,
Where are you from?
Nebraska.
Well,
I've been in Wichita for 12 plus years. So
wonderful. Good.
Yeah.
Scott has 25 years of experience. He is leaving out the best part. He has a degree from Kansas University.
Hey,
Rock Chalk.
He has a master's degree from Nebraska Omaha, MBA.
Yeah.
And he has a long list of private sector work, but the two that I think will ring a bell with the commissioner, Gulf Warehouse, and he was with ConAgra, and then some others as well. And
a few others.
So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, we're delighted to have you. I know this was a big hire for us in a lot of ways. So we're delighted to have you, glad to get to know you, and I'm sure we'll be spending some time together. And
I'm excited to be here.
okay, Scott, thank you. Welcome aboard. Okay, Lorian.
Okay, we'll be starting with Culture and Recreation today on page 720 of your binders. And Tim Kaufman is going to start us off.
Good morning, commissioners, or good afternoon, commissioners. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about culture and rec requests today. You're going to be hearing from myself, Scott Newland, and Adam Smith. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank the work of the department and finance staff, including Dustin Sigler, who's the budget analyst for these departments, and appreciate the help they gave us in putting this together. I'm going to bring Scott up first and let him talk about the zoo, and then I'll pop up here again a couple of times and Adam as well.
Okay, great. Hey, Scott, welcome. One quick note, Commissioner Howe was in a conflict. He's on his way. We'll be shortly. Commissioner Meissner is online too, so we might let them fire away from Zoom. So welcome, Scott. Glad you're here.
Thank you. Welcome, commissioners. Good afternoon. If you don't know me, I'm Scott Newland, President and CEO of Sedgwick County Zoo. So I will just start off in my clicker here. Looking at our workforce strengths here at the zoo, we are in a really strong position this year. We are pretty much fully staffed. We have, I think, 2 open positions right now. That may be a little different than when I made this a couple of weeks ago. But we have full force on the county side, which is great. I will say that is one of our strengths, in our analysis is definitely during or just after the compensation study was rolled out a couple of years ago, that really impacted our ability to hire new staff. And we've done a little bit better with retention for a lot of our entry-level positions. But as you all know, since we are kind of a dual-headed business out at the zoo, I did want to just kind of show you how we kind of align with the society too. So on the county side, we have 112.5 FTEs. And right now on the society side, we run anywhere from 30 to about 45, depending on kind of our seasonal employees as they come and go from like ride operations or our custodial services. But right now on the society side, we're in a really good place too when it comes to our workforce. So no complaints there. Obviously, we are non-mandatory services at the zoo. Really, as you all know, it's our goal to operate Sedgwick County Zoo for the citizens of Sedgwick County and the region, and pretty much just operate a safe facility for everybody that comes and visits us. Obviously, we want everybody to have a great time, but we are also pretty much self-mandated to provide the best animal care possible. I won't go over our whole SWOT analysis, obviously, but I will show a few highlights that I think are very important. In our strengths category, obviously, you guys know that the last few years we've been kind of talking about our economic impact for the region here. We are still looking at about a $60 million annual impact from the folks that come to visit Sedgwick County Zoo, which is a huge impact for the region. We've got great community favorability. We still poll at around 97% of Sedgwick County residents are highly favorable of the zoo, support the zoo, are proud of their zoo. So that is just a stat that we're very excited about. As I already mentioned, staffing is great right now, nearly fully staffed, and have been for close to a year and a half now, which is also great. When I started digging into this, I started looking at our leadership, our strategic operations team, and realized that a lot of us have been there for quite some time. And right now, if you look at the five kind of members of our strat ops team, so that's 3 county employees, 2 society employees, we have 112 years of experience between the 5 of us at the zoo. So we've got a lot of people that have pretty much dedicated their career to the Sedgwick County Zoo. So that, I think, is just a huge strength that we have. Always, we have great opportunities, not only within the community to offer more services or more programs, whether that's educational or cultural, but we also have some great opportunities with our strategic master plan moving forward. And also as we look at other things that we might want to invest in from a conservation standpoint, there's lots of opportunities there. Over in weakness, we don't have a lot of weaknesses that I felt like were that important to put into this analysis. But the 3 that I have up there are things, if you ask me, you know, what kind of gives you some consternation, what keeps you up at night. These are some, and that would be just kind of the infrastructure that we've talked about a lot here with you all. The zoo is 50 years old. We have some buildings that are obviously that old and need to be either addressed, repaired. Some of them may even need to be taken offline. So that's something that we're looking at. Staffing requests, we do have some staffing needs that we need to get addressed here over the next few years, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. And then just our constant conversation that we have with funding, and what does funding look like in the future? And we've had this conversation the last couple of times that I've come down and talked with you all. There's a lot of side conversations going on. Those are all great, and those are things that I'm very much looking forward to continuing, but it is something that I see as a weakness for all of us, is not really having a fine direction on what we're doing when it comes to funding. Threats right now, again, we don't really have a lot of threats that are concerning me. One that I always think about is public opinion. I do not take that 97% favorability lightly. It is something that we think about all the time. I have seen in our industry, it is very easy for a zoo that is very popular in the public eye or has a really good kind of customer service history to lose that very easily and very quickly. So that's something that we always are paying attention to. And like all of you that have presented before me or those that are going to present after, just kind of the economic uncertainty that's going on right now in the country. We've got a couple projects in the works that may or may not get impacted by tariffs, depending on how things progress. So that's something that we're really looking at. And a new one that I really have never brought up to the commission's attention, but I think is very important now, are some animal health risks. For the last couple of years, avian influenza, H5N1, has been on our minds. You have probably seen, if you follow us on social media, occasionally as migration for native birds occurs, we have to sometimes protect some of the avian collection at the zoo. What that means is we may not have those birds on exhibit for our guests because we don't want them to accidentally get avian influenza from wild flocks. But more recently, and probably more concerning to me, is the measles situation that is slowly starting to develop around. All of our great primates, so chimps, gorillas, and orangutans, are susceptible to measles. And for the first time in my history, probably in the first time in our history, we are vaccinating those animals for measles, which is not something that we've ever done before. And it's completely just a preliminary kind of step to protect those animals. We're not necessarily worried that they're going to contract measles, but it's something that as it continues to maybe grow or change in our human population, it's something that we wanted to get ahead of. So that was something I did want to include on the threat board there. As far as our requests go, it's pretty straightforward. Our general fund request, as you can see up here, that includes both our personnel requests and then our contractual requests for the CIP allotment. So you can see that up here on the screen at 8.893. We do have one decision package this year. As you all are aware, we do have two amazing baby elephants running around the zoo right now. And as they get bigger, they are going to need a little more care. And so we have put in a request for 2 additional FTEs in the elephant department. That would allow us to spread those workloads over more appropriately. It would be a little bit less of kind of a stress on all the staff that are over there. And you can see up here, the monetary request is right at $147,000 for those 2 positions. I don't, unfortunately, and I know Tim and Tom were aware of this, I do not have a reduction package to submit. I completely agree and understand that was kind of the mandate, but as I looked around the operation, I didn't have any positions to cut for animal care, since all of our positions that the county provides are either animal care, maintenance, or horticulture. I couldn't really justify cutting any one of those other areas to make up for these 2 new positions that I have requested. So I will leave that to the commission to decide how to handle that, but that is why we did not present an alternative package. Any questions?
Okay, so I appreciate that clarity and appreciate all the work going on at the zoo. Commissioners, any questions or comments? I would just ask, this, we could probably take this offline. A better understanding of how the decision is made between it's a county employee or a society employee, like how that comes to fruition and how do we determine who goes to what side?
So historically, it has really been animal care, horticulture, and maintenance are the only 3 groups that the county concerns themselves with. Everything else are society. So historically, that would have been employees that worked in the zoo store or the restaurants. Now that we have partnered with a third-party company to do that, we don't even have those employees on the society side. Instead, we converted those positions all to be fundraising positions, education, events, coordination, all of our custodial. So really kind of the operational revenue generating side is all the society, the animal care and upkeep of the facility is county.
Understood. Okay, it's helpful. Commissioner Howe?
Thank you, Chairman. Just please don't shoot the messenger here. I'm just curious, what's the long-term plan for the elephant population in terms of the totals that we're taking care of? We know it's expanding right now, and I don't think there's any intent to limit their ability to reproduce in the future. So there's going to have to be something that's going to be done at some point to deal with, if you will, elephants that may be shared someplace else. I don't know what the plan is, but I mean, when we built this elephant exhibit, I actually went back and looked at some of the paperwork back in the day, and they talked about like the maximum of 9 back in the day. And then we're exceeding that by, again, if had the one not passed, I think we would be at 14 or 15 at this point, once all these births happen. And so there's got to be kind of a long-term plan. What is the plan to keep the elephant population in some kind of a managed level?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So right now, we do have 2 more pregnancies that are still viable. And so hopefully we're successful for those over this summer. After that, all of those young offspring will stay within the herd for probably the next 8 to 10 years, which is mirrors what they do in the wild. At some point, Commissioner Howell, we will get maybe a recommendation from the SSP to say, okay, we really want Samunier to try to breed again. She was the female that lost the first calf. Now that is a recommendation we can either accept or say, sorry, right now we can't do that. That is something that as we either have success through the rest of these pregnancies this year will be something that we really look at. The next couple years, we will not have any additional, knock on wood, calves coming because moms won't be ready to breed at any time soon. But I think what you're asking is, as we grow or move animals in and out, there's obviously going to have to be some limit of what I can come to the commission and say, hey, I need more zookeepers for this elephant exhibit. Right now, these two, I feel, will get us covered for what we have now and what we would have this summer. If we have more success than that in the future, my guess is we'll probably be coming back and asking occasionally, maybe we need to add one person, maybe we need to add two. I don't have a crystal ball into what that success or failure looks like. If we don't have good success for the rest of the year, I think we'll probably be squared away with these two. If we are successful, I imagine in the future we might need one or two more staff over there. But it is not our plan to keep adding elephants every year, therefore adding staff every year. We just aren't going to have the space to do that either. You all are aware we are in the middle of a capital campaign to build a barn expansion. We will be managing our herd size to fit the needs of that space once it's complete. So that would be probably the easiest way for me to answer that. Is there may be some need for additional in the future. It'll all just depend on how animals move in and out of our herd.
I guess my question would be, at some point, the herd that you have right now, assuming that there's future pregnancies, something's going to have to be positioned elsewhere at some point. And I'm not sure you want to get into the details of that, but it's the intention to hold this at what level?
So you're absolutely right. The intention would always be at some point we will splinter off one of our kind of familiar groups. So like a mom and her two offspring, let's say, would go to another facility to seed a new breeding group. So once they're age appropriate, that's when we would start splintering those off. And that has always been our plan and intention of kind of this program.
I know it takes 2 years to make a baby elephant. That's what I understand. And then, so how long in the wild or in captivity, I guess, is it reasonable to expect these moms to potentially be with a child once again? Is it 2 years down the road?
So it is a question that's answered dependent on sex of the baby. So whether they're male or female, they hang out with their mom till they're around 10 years old. Females could stay with their natal group for their entire lives. Males get kicked out of the herd. So our two boys that we have right now, when they reach adolescent age, we will be looking to move them elsewhere because naturally mom would be kicking them out of the herd anyway.
What I'm saying is the mom of the baby elephants, how long until they're expecting again, potentially?
Expecting to be pregnant again. They could be as early as year 3. In a perfect situation, what we would like to see is you would have mom, baby, and then the next baby comes, the original offspring gets to see mom raise that second offspring. So we might have a scenario where I'll use Talia as an example. Talia has Bomani, and at some point in the next few years, she gets pregnant again and then gives birth to a second calf with the first one still there. All of those are management decisions will be completely looked at from a standpoint of our resources, our space, what the population overall needs. So there's a lot of things that will go into that decision, but that's what we'd like to see in the future. Doesn't mean that's what we will see in the future.
I'll just say this. I hope we, are anticipating kind of a maximum number. And again, I thought that number was 9. So now that we're 14 or 15 or whatever, it sounds like there's scenarios here we could get even higher than that.
My hope is that we're never higher than 15. That is a lot to deal with. And I don't know that we're ready to deal with that today, obviously. So
Once the remaining two babies are born, how many are going to be here total?
So we would be at, I got to think this quickly through. We would have a total of 11 here now. Is that correct, Sarah? Yes.
And that up to me, but okay, I'm not
So
sure.
we have 12. Sorry, I was off one. I forgot the male. So because we've sent Titan out. So we did have one male leave to go to Atlanta.
Thank you.
Tom, I'm going to ask you a question real quick, because one of the things that Scott mentioned was it's a weakness on a SWOT analysis was future funding sources. Something I've worked on better part of 2 years in these conversations. The recent en banc city of Wichita, we tasked jointly Lindsay Banaka to come up with suggestions and explore some ideas and to present just creative strategies that we could all consider. Could you maybe shed some light publicly and maybe emphasize what it is that we're asking Lindsay to do and what she's going to be bringing back?
Yeah. Well, and I'll let Tanya chime in on this too, if she knows anything different than I, but I see this as two things that Lindsay will do. First of all, we will look at our current funding for community development, not EP, not zoo
Or interest?
or interest bank arena, but everything other than that, we will look at what we spend today, and the city will do similar. And then Lindsay will look at ways or strategies to more equitably fund these types of programs within the community. So that's phase one. The second phase, and what Scott's alluding to, I think she will also delve into what's going to be the future of all of these and of all of these cultural arts and fun things to do in the community, and how can we manage that better together. So I think I haven't had a chance to talk to her, by the way. I think she will look at that going into the future and come back to both governing bodies with suggestions on strategies to fund and maintain this into the future.
Okay, it's helpful. That's a conversation that comes up frequently. I know, Scott, you and I have had it a lot. Adam and I have had it a lot. Just picking your brains as to what the funding model looks like. I think from my perspective that I get very leery about property taxes funding. I think there's a better source of revenue to fund the things that are really important to make sure they're sustainable long into the future and secure, formulaically secure in this community. So I appreciate you've always been at the table and always had an open mind and helped me to explore these. We appreciate everything that's going on at the zoo.
Thank you very much.
Okay, keep us posted on those elephants.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, commissioners, we're going to talk about the non-zoo, non-EP discussion real quick. So the community programs in the budget, it's on page 720, I believe. Nothing is mandatory here. We fund 5 different organizations. All of them are longstanding, successful organizations in the community, have done a lot of really good work. The Kansas African American Museum, Wichita Sedgwick County Historical Museum, the Sedgwick County Fair, and the Arts Council make up those community programs that we fund. There are no staff involved, so there's no staffing chart here. In terms of the SWOT analysis that we've done, attendance really was hammered during COVID for all kinds of cultural events. And so they have started to come back. They're just about all back to where they were pre-COVID. But one of the things that happened during that time was a commitment to continue to share the information that they had and the display some of the information that they've got in a different way. And so they were able to really expand the way they got their information out and increased visitation electronically. We see it particularly at the Historical Museum. They talk about how many more visitors they have that come through their website and that sort of thing. And so they were creative in their response to COVID, and I think it's benefited them to this point of time. In terms of weaknesses, again, we've talked a little bit about already. The funding is a challenge, whether it's public funding or private funding. Raising money is tough right now, and that's probably the biggest weakness that these organizations see. In terms of opportunities, TCAM has a new facility that they'll be bringing online soon that gives them a lot of additional space so they can expand their offerings and that sort of thing. There's some really good work that happens now with the Attractions Council, and that is an opportunity for people who work in this space to coordinate and collaborate together, think about joint efforts and that sort of thing. Both Scott and Adam are really involved in that organization, and I think of them as leaders in that Attractions Council in that regard. And one of the other things that's happened a couple of years ago, I had an opportunity to work with Lindsay Banaka and the city of Wichita as they did the new strategic plan for their cultural arts division. And we then talked about some of the overlap in funding that happens between city and county and some of the organizations. And so I think the conversations that Lindsay's going to have now are really beneficial and will help us be smarter as we continue to fund organizations like this. And then the final threat that I want to talk about is Sunflower Summer. I think you're all familiar with that program and some of the changes that have been made at the state level, reduction in the funding for it and the programming and the way it's been delivered. And so I think that's a little bit of a threat for some of our organizations as well. This is a flat request, so funded at the same level as last year. It is all contractual expenditures, and no decision packages, alternative reductions, or revenue packages. So be happy to answer any questions about culture and rec community programs.
Any questions? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. Can you go ahead and walk me through historically, what's TKAM funding been and what's the history there? Side.
So it's a little bit less now than it was 2 years ago. So it's been about roughly $200,000. And then about 4 years ago, there was a capital campaign contribution of $90,000 a year for 5 years. So a total of $450,000 for their new site. And so we reduced the operational contribution last year a little bit. And we've been static for prior to that, we were static for probably 10 or 15 years. I know they do get some funding from the city of Wichita as well.
And I don't know if that was on our list of tours. Maybe sometime I could get a tour and kind of bring me up to date on some of that.
Sure, we'd be glad to do that. You know, they've just announced a new executive director, and so maybe a great opportunity to get in there and see that.
Thank you.
That going on.
Okay. Other questions?
Where are we on, what year are we in on that capital campaign?
I believe, we're in year 5. Yeah, 2026 would be 5th year. Yeah.
So this budget is the final payment on that?
Mm-hmm.
The 2026 budget you'll be adopting. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Adam. Talk to
Okay.
Pete.
Adam, welcome. Glad you're here.
Afternoon. A special good afternoon to Commissioners Wise and Bluebar. It's the first chance I've had to speak to you formally. In fact, I'd like to start with a few pieces of context for our new commissioners and a refresher for existing commissioners. Sedgwick County owns the Exploration Place buildings that are located on City of Wichita land. I'm the only county employee at the museum. The rest of the team, which is about 50 full-time staff and a varying part-time staff, they work for EPI, Exploration Place Inc., which is a 501c3 nonprofit. There's an operating agreement between Sedgwick County and EPI that's pretty long, but a couple of key points. I personally report jointly to Sedgwick County, to you as the Board of County Commissioners, and to the Board of Exploration Place as their Chief Executive Officer. An Exploration Place is 100% responsible for maintaining the county-owned buildings and grounds. And that's a substantial item because in addition to the operating budget that we have to sustain and the capital campaign and expansion we're going through right now, we're also planning for more than $10 million of capital costs that are coming due in the upcoming years, including a new roof, new HVA system, and new electrical. EP's partnership with Sedgwick County, from a funding perspective, began in 2005. The peak support was $2.5 million in the year 2009. There was a series of decreases, and since 2012, funding's been relatively stable at just over $2 million. During that period of time, while Exploration Place has been receiving no annual funding increase, we're very proud that we've doubled our attendance, tripled our membership, absorbed all that inflation that's happened over that time. And that funding, my board and my staff and our community thank the commission for, because it's brought stability to our organization and I think good things to our community. Currently, I am personally juggling what I feel are three pretty big balls. First of all, the base operation of Exploration Place is at a historically high level. The last 2 years, we've hit more than 400,000 visitors, which is a historic high for us on all of the programming and effort that goes into just being Exploration Place that our guests expect. We're also in the middle of a large capital fundraising campaign. We're trying to raise $27 million for the EP2 project, to which we are very grateful for the $2.5 million contribution from Sedgwick County. Right now, we're at 24 million raised, so we got 3 million to go with about a year left of juice in the campaign, because it will be about this time next year we'll be having the grand opening of EP2. It will operationally be open by spring break of next year, but we want to have a sort of a soft opening period where we're as we get ready for a full opening. And the third ball I'm juggling, as well as the campaign and the base operation, is that now in that preparation period where I'm preparing to operate a substantially expanded operation, and all the hiring and planning and staffing that goes into that. On the subject of staffing, I compared this to some previous years, and there's actually more red and yellow on this, but I will say that my general feeling about the staffing of Exploration Place is I've got unquestionably the best team that I've been here 5.5 years, and my base team and the capabilities that they have are unquestionably the strongest. We've got a core group that's now got some experience and can be very productive. So that sort of helps you through times when you've got some red on the chart and things like that. Another thing I'll mention is that the marginal rate for Exploration Place staff is 16%. What I mean is that for every $100 that we spend on staffing, on wages and salaries, we spend $16 on benefits, and that's very low. You know that you can look at your other departments, and in some ways, that's one of the great benefits of a public-private partnership to the public sector, that there's a real efficiency there in terms of staffing costs that is not reflected in the benefits. But it does make my job more difficult, because we don't, the benefits package that we're able to offer is just not as strong competitive. As with previous presentations, none of the Exploration Places services are mandatory. I think you've got the packet. You can read this. I think you've got a pretty good sense of who we are and what we do. So I'm going to jump on to the SWOT slide. By the way, I applaud the introduction of SWOT into the budget process this year. It's something that over my whole working life has been very valuable in getting a quick strategic analysis of something. The main strength of Exploration Place, in my opinion, is that we're supported by the community. We're popular. People like to come. And a lot of the success we've had in recent years has really come from making that handshake with our community. Of the 400,000 visitors that came to Exploration Place last year, 76% of them were residents of Sedgwick County. And that's also reflected in membership. We had 10,700 member households, which reflects probably 40 to 50,000 people. And again, 75% of those are county residents. Like Scott, I'm not going to go through and address every single bullet on this SWOT. But I do want to talk about the first bullet on weaknesses, which is instability in county funding. We signed a 5-year funding agreement in October 2022, and the whole purpose of that was to create predictability as we went through a phase of expansion. It's not a coincidence that shortly after that 5-year funding agreement was signed, EP's board formally committed to the entire EP2 project, and we launched the fundraising campaign in December of that year. Unfortunately, last summer's budget process introduced what for us was the opposite of stability. Our county allocation was reduced by 10%, a $209,000 cut, and this came after our own budget had already been approved. So just a point of clarity, EP's budget year is not aligned with the counties. We start on July 1 rather than January 1. So this news was a bolt from the blue, and it severely disrupted both internal planning and capital campaign momentum. We had to do what no organization wants to do, which is revise our budget and our operating plan mid-year. This included eliminating staff positions, canceling camps, and it had a knock-on effect that included $179,000 in associated grants and program revenue. The most serious impact was to the capital campaign. Public support influences donor confidence. It shapes campaign strategy, execution capacity, and external perception. All of that was affected. Plus, frankly, I had not planned on the time required having to restructure and rebuild my organization mid-year. As we head into a new budget cycle, EP has not yet recovered the campaign momentum lost in the last budget year. Just to put that into dollar terms, between December 2022 and July 2024, the first 20 months of our campaign, we averaged $980,000, $785 per month in new pledges to the campaign. Since we went through the budget crisis last summer, that number has dropped to $284,000 per month, so it's dropped by more than a third. To bridge the cash flow gap created by campaign timing, pledges and construction, we are arranging a $7 million line of credit. I've already delayed key staff hires as far into the calendar as operationally feasible, but I want to be clear, I have fairly serious concerns that we're building a transformative new facility for our community, but may not be able to operate it as planned. I want to note that the figures shown on this slide do not reflect EP's actual funding request. I've been informed they are carried forward from last year. Staff will present the third and final draft of EP's 2025 to 26 year budget to our board on May 22nd. Ahead of that, my board leadership will be requesting a meeting with you, our commissioners, to confirm what our actual funding request is and to ensure alignment before final decisions are made. We are very keen not to repeat last year's issues. We're committed to transparency, operational excellence, and maximizing value for Sedgwick County, and I'm happy to take any questions you have.
Okay, Adam, thank you. Appreciate it. It was encouraging to hear $27 million campaign, $24 million in. That's encouraging because I know that's a big lift. And I personally know a lot of people and organizations that have participated in this and contributed. And I've fortunately been able to get in and try to connect some dots for you guys to take some of these meetings with some of these organizations so that they can participate in this campaign. I would just say before we get into some questions and comments that the board, Adam's in a unique position because he works for Sedgwick County. He also works for the board. The board will be reaching out. I've met with Patrick. I've met with Gail on a number of occasions now. They will be reaching out. And I've told them and I've told Adam and I'm telling publicly now and my colleagues that Sedgwick County government gave $2.5 million to the EP2 initiative. When Adam makes a statement like he did and the board makes statements that they might be limping into this campaign and not be able to operate it at full capacity, a generational opportunity for this community. I've told Adam and we take that very seriously. We certainly are not going to just let that comment and let that just kind of pass through. We are going to vet that out. We're going to sit with the board and have conversations with the board to make sure that we fully understand that you're empowered to walk into the EP2 grand opening next spring at full strength. So I've committed that to Adam that I'll make sure that that we're sitting down and visiting and walking through this so we fully understand exactly EP2 and exactly what the needs are. So you're not walking into that, that you're not limping into that. So I just wanted the commission to know that I am visiting with the board and I'm certain they're going to be reaching out to all of us to sit down and chat. because this is a generational opportunity for the community. You want to make sure you're empowered to seize that opportunity and walk in on day one empowered. So, okay, questions or comments? So, Adam, this is March, April next year, right?
Yeah, we'll probably get a certificate of occupancy as early as late November, early December. But we don't want to do a grand opening right into the worst weather of the year. There will be some opportunities for our members and our local resident community to come and enjoy. Literally, if we can see a spell of really good weather approaching, we're going to activate because it will help us to get some operational experience. But we will be going full on from spring break onwards, which is, I think it starts March 9th. It's an early one next year.
Yeah.
We're expecting such high demand that we'll probably have to have some level of metering of that demand over the first couple of months. But then we're targeting May of next year we want to have a party and celebration. Yeah. And we got a couple of people that we really love to come and open it that I can't talk about right now, but it'll be a lot of fun.
Well, it'll be exciting. I also note that Adam's been at the table with some of these discussions, same as Scott, with the revenue, the attractions council and the potential revenue models moving forward and what this could look like. So appreciate your involvement in that and your input in that.
If you don't mind, I watch her on Bonk with the city and just from my position in the community, I was really happy with the discussion. I have great confidence in Lindsay. I've had the pleasure of working with her for the last few years. I think the process she's run on the city side with cultural arts funding has been really great. And I think being able to see all of our cultural amenities under one umbrella, there is nothing for Wichita to lose in that. That some of these discussions can get difficult.
Yeah.
But building what we do on the right platforms, the right way to go. And I think we made a lot of progress. Like for me, in the last 6 years or 5.5 years, that the Wichita Attractions Council that Tim referenced has been really transformational. We've gone from almost antagonism between our local attractions to really full throated cooperation. And again, that's really for the benefit of our community.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, appreciate that, Adam. Commissioner Howe.
Just a couple of quick questions and I guess a comment. So I'm just curious, why is EP on a state fiscal year calendar?
I can't tell you that. Usually when some question like that comes up, it's buried in the mists of when the organization got founded and when the first board of trustees was put together and what made sense. And I've a couple of times in my past, it's created some awkwardness in planning, but when you look at the implications of trying to move your fiscal year, that's really, really disruptive too.
I know it would be one time. However, I guess my point is that unless you receive state funding, I don't know if you do or not. Not that I'm aware of. Do you guys receive state funding?
The only state funding that we've had outside of the capital campaign is the Sunflower Summer program that Tim referred to.
I mean, a lot of things that are funded through the feds are October, and then state things are July, and then local things tend to be January. So I just, for EP, which has always been funded through local, as far as I know, for it to be on a state fiscal year calendar just seems like it's set up so these changes may be more difficult to absorb, whatever changes might happen, whatever it is we do. I mean, there's been times we have increased our funding, for example, but you have to wait 6 months into your fiscal calendar for you to even absorb, if you will, an increase either. So that'd be an increase or decrease. You're always 6 months. You always have a 6-month offset because your fiscal calendar is not aligned with other local governments that you get all your funding from. So I don't know what to do with that other than just encourage, I guess you all have maybe a desire to realign your fiscal calendar so that it's more normal. Maybe you don't see value in that, but I think that any changes that happen would be easier to absorb if you were on a calendar or same calendar as everybody else that's providing funding. But I did meet with Gail and Pat a while back, and I guess my opinion is that as long as you're tied to property tax dollars, we're going to have problems. This is not a good source of funding for you, and we need to identify that. And I think we should be large agreement between. So looking at Scott over there in the corner, we've got to move the culture and rec over to sales tax. I guess only way, to my opinion, to really protect what you do. If there was a dedicated sales tax that was voter approved, then it's safe. And until you're there, you're going to be held to the whims of politicians as they come and go. And at the end of the day, when we're tightening our belt, and I think this is a very challenged budget. And by the way, and I wasn't really here. I mean, I wasn't here before 2015, but I can tell you that I know the 5 years previous to that, the zoo and EP went through a very rough time financially. The county, you guys, in fact, I think several years there, you didn't have agreements at all with the county. There were no funding agreements, and there were cuts. Some of the biggest cuts you've ever had to endure happened during that time. And after that happened, I think EP had been on a small increase per year, but once that 2015 got behind you, I think you got frozen, and that 2.2 million a year has been static ever since until last year. You know, and actually, and be totally clear, I advocated to Gail when the $2.5 million was being, actually it was $2 million at that time, was being contemplated. I actually wanted to get you guys back on a funding agreement that would get you an escalation clause based on inflation. So you'd have a small increase per year. I think that's actually better for you guys. But anyway, that conversation never even made it out of my office, unfortunately. That was very disappointing. We spent days, actually spent quite a bit of time with staff and others trying to put together a really good proposal, I thought. And unfortunately, that was canned. And in lieu of that was a CIP commitment of $2.5 million, but it left you with an operational shortfall. So the two things back to back, I think needs to tell the whole picture. There was a $2.5 million, but then 10% cut, and that 10% cut may be fixed in some point, and maybe not. I don't know. I have to see what happens. But I think when we are trying to balance the budget, and I know there are some things right now that are even in the public safety part of our budget, which I consider to be the most important thing that Sedgwick County does, which I think are financially at risk right now. I think we're in a bad situation right now for us to promise a whole lot of anything going forward. I don't know where we are in a 5-year period. And to be clear, also, your 5-year agreement, as far as you know, was for 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And I read that agreement. I think it's a flawed agreement for one thing. I mean, I think basically whoever drafted that did not do some things they should have done. That agreement's got some problems, but nevertheless, I advocated to get you guys back to an increasing year-over-year budget. And that conversation never even left my office. I was very disappointed in that. So I'll just say this. I think as we are struggling with property taxes, I don't know how anything in this budget can be exempted from the realities of what we're dealing with in every other part of the budget. I would just say the future for both of you guys, in my personal opinion, the way to really protect you is to get you over to sales tax. And I don't know why, I've been talking about this for a couple of years. We're still just talking. And I feel like until we move that direction, you're going to be wondering about the future. I think once the voters approve something that's done by the voters, that gives you a dedicated revenue stream that's yours and nobody can touch it. I think that's the only way to really protect you guys going forward. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Mr. Blubaugh.
Thank you, Chairman. Have we looked at collaboration opportunities, STEM opportunities, just throwing stuff out about NIAR, Wichita Public Schools, WSU Tech, someone else that we could maybe bring in to eventually wean off the property tax responsibility? I appreciate the conversation with the sales tax. My experience with the city, I don't see a sales tax ever being approved by the voters, not at this time. So just, are we looking at any other opportunities for funding?
I think we will be. We're operating in a 5-year plan period, which comes to an end next year. So starting July 1, our board is forming a new strategic planning committee, and I started getting my head around what are some of the big themes of our next strategic plan going to be. And I think exactly what you just described is top of my list. That when I look at other models around the country of science centers such as ours, and this should not be construed as a criticism at all, because I think we've got a great relationship with USD 259. But I think there's definitely opportunities to do a lot more. And I think we will want to reach out quite proactively to try and encourage that conversation as we go through the next strategic
I mean,
plan.
you have a great facility with great opportunities there to bring on the next leaders in science and tech. I just want to make sure that we're turning over every rock.
Yeah.
Chairman,
Yeah, please.
thank you, Chairman. I may have said Pat, and I meant Gail when I said that we had a good discussion. I thought we were moving forward with a proposal that would have actually solved your problem. I think I had a conversation with Gail. I don't remember Pat necessarily being part of that. And to be clear to Commissioner Blubaugh, I'm not advocating for a tax increase. I'm advocating for a mill levy decrease that's equal to around the $20 million revenue stream that would come from sales tax. We're talking roughly a fifth of a penny, a fifth of 1%, a fifth of a cent sales tax. If the state will let us do in a fifth of a cent increment, I don't think they will. So you have to round up to a quarter of a cent. So again, a 1/4% sales tax. And if that passed, it becomes a dedicated revenue stream. We would lower the mill levy the same amount. So what it does is it shifts it from property taxes to sales taxes. And it's protected because it's dedicated because voters said to do so. That's the vision. It's not a tax increase. It's replacing one tax with another. But by doing so, you have a mandate from the people. To me, that's the answer. So again, I don't know if we can do a fifth of a cent or percent. I think it has to be probably a 1/4%. A 1/4% generates $35 million in today's numbers. That's more than we would ever spend for all the culture and rec added together, and then almost double that. So you can almost do that for maybe you talk about shared expenses with Wichita. That creates a revenue stream that maybe solves some other problems for other communities as well. That's a lot of money. $35 million. We don't. You add all the culture rec together right now, it's not even half that.
From my perspective, the idea you're circulating, again, when I look around the country at comparative organizations and cities, it is the healthiest funding model. And I also heard Commissioner Blubaugh express some skepticism about whether we could ever get it done in Wichita, and I think that's a fair question based upon our history. It did get my attention that Topeka, Kansas just got there. And, so in not too far from here, 60-40 vote of the population in favor of something that was, it is creating for Topeka a mini St. Louis. And what they did in St. Louis way back in the 60s or 70s, which was created one of the greatest zoos, and great science museum, great arboretum, et cetera. And there's no question, right, at this point, 50 years on, the people of St. Louis, they love it. I mean, it is like, they're so proud of it. So do tend to be an abundance thinking kind of person. I would not give up on the dream because, but I also would not imagine it's going to be easy.
Are you referencing the city walk in St. Louis?
No, I'm referencing it's called the ZMD, Zoo Museum District,
Okay.
which is, there's a formula.
Been through some of those.
Yeah,
city walks.
yeah. But when I say that Attractions Council is starting to become an effective body, I think there's maybe a body there that our public officials can partner with to help make the case to the public about, the benefits that we see as a group and what we think we can bring to the community if we've got that stability and that ability to deliver high quality programs and services.
And to clarify further, actually, if we did 1/8 of a percent, that generates about $18 million a year. And again, equivalent mill levy, dropping that off is more than 2 mills, about 2.5 mills. So the question would be, shall we, replace roughly 2.5 mills of property tax with 1/8 of a percent sales tax to provide a dedicated revenue stream to these cultural rec things, including the exploration place in Sedgwick County Zoo? I think it'll pass. But you got to put that on the ballot to get there. We'll never know if you don't try. My opinion is, if you put the question out there and talk about exploration place and talk about Sedgwick County Zoo, and you talk about a mill levy increase in your property taxes, I actually think it'll pass. Second of all, this is not true for exploration place, but since Scott's still in the room, I'll point out once again that before 2001, the zoo was funded at a static 1.359 mills exactly. And we moved away from that to these 5-year funding agreements, which, by the way, 8 of them were drafted and deleted or drafted and rescinded between 2002 and 2015 or 16. And there was about 2 years there was no contracts at all. And had it not been for the $6 million for the entrance and $5.3 million for the elephant barn, you guys would have given up about $12 million in revenue by moving from the 1.359 to a funding agreement. You've actually given up revenue, but we caught up because we gave you extra gifts. And so with the latest gift for the next round of the elephant barn, you may be slightly ahead, but once again, this is CIP. It's hard on our property tax funds to do these one-time gifts. The 1.359 static mill levy is much easier to say every single year. We don't sit there and debate 1.5 mills to WSU. We don't spend 3 minutes talking about that per year, I don't think. I get to meet Dr. Muma, talk about his golf game or whatever. We don't spend much time talking about the money because it's 1.5 mils and it's just the way it is. And that's the way I think the zoo used to be. We've had a lot of political banter about zoo funding since then because we moved away from what was working to what they thought was better, and it's turned out to be way worse. And I've been advocating for my entire 10 years. 10 years I've been here now. I've been saying we'd be better off going back to what we had before. What's even better than that, though, is a sales tax. So a static mill levy is better than what we have today. Better than that is a sales tax, and I think people will vote for it. So anyway, in either case, these 5-year agreements, most of them have never made it to the end. And the one you have right now, no offense to you, Mr. Smith, but one you have right now actually is so poorly worded. It doesn't say what I think you think it says. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I really don't want to steer the conversation into the sales tax conversation, but I just want to say one thing. We already have a 1 cent countywide sales tax, so 50% of it's dedicated to property tax.
Okay.
And to be clear, if you live in Wichita, you have 24 mil reduction because of it.
Okay. Well, I think most people know where I stand on the whole sales tax conversation, and this conversation is going to continue. So appreciate everybody coming through. Tim?
2 slides left. I'm going to go really fast because I think I've gone over my time. Just over almost $11.3 million ask. And thank you so much.
Okay, very good. Appreciate it. Okay, Lauren.
Okay, next we're moving to Technology Review Board. It's on page 743 of your binders, and Joe Courier is here to present.
We get Joe, huh?
Good afternoon, Commissioners and Chairman. Joe Courier, your IT Security Manager, and I have the privilege to speak on the Technology Review Board and the budget requests and projects we have lined up for 2026. Pardon our difficulties getting the presentation up. Excellent. All right. Okay, so TRB was established in April 15th of 2019 and sets the guidelines for review, approval, and funding and prioritization of all technology requests. The purpose of the TRB is to centralize the process of managing information technology products, FTEs for technology support, and hardware software needs of the county. A quick look at the members of your Technology Review Board. And moving on, we have 13 projects listed that received an A rating from the Technology Review Board. However, the clerk did talk about their software concerns last week, and they are working through an RFI process. That project has been pulled, and I will mention that again as we get through the presentation. Our first decision package here is on page 744 is where it starts. This is the request for additional funding for the renewal and maintenance of the computer-aided dispatch, records management, and jail management suites of software. The system is essential for emergency services and handling 911 calls, dispatching for 31 different agencies, enabling crime traffic analysis for law enforcement, and managing inmates in the jail. This is needed to ensure continuous vendor support, licensing, 24/7 availability for effective public service. Some more information about that. Our largest users are EMS and fire and law enforcement. There are currently 3,473 users of this suite of software. Emergency communications uses CAD to manage and dispatch emergency services. RMS is a multi-jurisdictional shared service from fire, EMS, and police. Used by the sheriff and 8 police departments, which would be Valley Center, Bel Air, Keachai, Eastboro, Hayesville, Park City, Derby, and Mays. They use this to manage, create, and track call records, incidents, reports, as well as evidence and investigations. And the Sedgwick County Detention Facility uses JMS to manage 1,400 beds and inmates from booking to release. It tracks the inmates' movement as well as operational functions. So this project was submitted to TRB in 2018, or this was submitted in 2018, given an A rating in 2019, and was brought back to TRB as a request for additional authority to cover the sheriff's office portion of that request. Our next decision package here is the Kronos Workforce to UKG Pro migration. For the Department of Finance, this request is for software hardware maintenance for UKG Pro. This is the cloud-based successor to the Kronos Workforce e-timesheet system. This system is crucial for timekeeping, scheduling, especially for public safety, and integrates with SAP for countywide payroll processing. The funding represents a necessary upgrade as the current version is reaching its end of life. This would ensure that the continuation of essential and timely payroll services for Sedgwick County. The end of development is December 31st of this year. That's when they will stop all patches, updates, feature ads, anything like that. And the end of life is March 31st of 2027. UKG Pro is a software as a service product hosted in the Google Cloud. Maintenance and updates to the system are performed weekly and designed to minimize downtime. The system also supports single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, and the system upgrade will include configuration of interfaces that currently connect SAP and Telestaff to Workforce Central. The implementation cost of this is $913,560, and the annual renewal is $296,000 and will not increase during the term of the contract. Moving on to decision package number 3, page 748. This is the Faster Win upgrade to Faster Web for Fleet. This project is to upgrade the Sedgwick County Fleet Management software. This upgrade is considered a need because of the existing on-premise software reaches its end of life in August of 2025. The new Faster Web system is a hosted solution offering benefits that I spoke about previously as well, with an enhanced security single sign-on MFA, and unlimited user access, dashboards, and barcoding to improve asset tracking and maintenance scheduling. This is from the Fleet Fund 602, and the request is for $136,780, and there is an annual need of $25,632.72 for the renewals. Decision package number 4 is on page 750. This is our network gear to replace 88 Cisco 2960 network switches. This replacement is a critical need because these switches reach their end of life in October of 2027, after which they will no longer receive updates or security updates, fixes, patches, any of that work. Funding in 2026 is to allow sufficient time to complete this large replacement project because before the end of life deadline, thereby maintaining network security, reliability, compliance with CGIS, HIPAA, and PCI needs. This project will require a large amount of staff time, taking approximately 5 days to configure, schedule, and complete installation with minimal interruption for the departments that we're replacing these at. And that's 5 days on estimate for each of these switches at a count of 88. So we need to order these in 2026 to be able to implement by the October 2027 deadline. Sites that process sensitive information will be prioritized to ensure compliance. And this is a one-time request for $315,000. Our next decision package starts on page 752, and this is the Orion and Field Mobile to Hosted solution for the appraiser's office. This request moves the county's Assessment and Tax Pro ATP and Orion computer-aided mass appraisal CAMA systems to a cloud-hosted solution provided by Tyler Technologies running on Amazon Web Services. This migration would offer benefits such as 24/7 vendor monitoring and support, federally compliant data backups, ample image storage, and vendor-supported maintenance. Currently, these systems are hosted on the same server in our data center. This request is for $150,000 and $150,000 with a 5% increase annually for the life of the contract. Decision package number 6 starts on 754. This is the clerk's records management system, and that has been pulled. So it will, I don't have any information displayed there. So moving on to number 7. Starting on page 756, this is the CCX3 Flex Renewal for IT Infrastructure. This project is to renew the Cisco CCX3 Flex licenses, which are deemed a critical need for county call center operations. These licenses provide essential functions like call routing and reporting for vital services, including the 911 tertiary backup, Department on Aging, ComCare, including the crisis and 988 lines, and our IT help desk. Not renewing this would severely disrupt these services and hinder crisis response capabilities. So these call centers, we have 15 call centers configured in the system, and they took 858,295 calls last year, which averages about 2,351 calls per day. So the system is heavily used. This request is for $34,272 annually. Our next is our countywide PC replacement for IT infrastructure as well. This request is to continue to establish countywide PC replacement program funded from the general fund as approved in 2020. The program operates on an 8-year life cycle, replacing the oldest 1/8 of the county's computers to proactively manage hardware and stay ahead of operating system end of support dates. This is critical. Replacement is considered an organizational need to mitigate security risks associated with outdated and unpatched systems and ensure compliancy with CJIS, HIPAA, PCI guidelines, and support IT's goal of cybersecurity and platform readiness. This request is for $337,125, and this is brought every year to the commission and asked each time. Decision package number 9. Page 760 is our vulnerability management detection and response, our VMDR system for IT security. This request seeks $45,000 annually starting in 2026 to renew our vulnerability management detection and response solution. This solution is considered critical need to enhance the county's cybersecurity by proactively identifying, prioritizing, and remediating IT infrastructure weaknesses, replacing the current slow and manual vulnerability management process. VMDR provides comprehensive visibility, automated detection, risk-based prioritization, and faster remediation, which helps reduce the risk of cyber attacks, improve the efficiency, ensure compliance, and prevent service disruptions. Previously, we relied on notifications from different threat feeds and from the vendors themselves. We also leverage penetration testing with external third-party vendors to help identify vulnerabilities, and this is done usually a one-time deal each year. So leveraging this allows that to be continuous. We do leverage Department of Homeland Security services for biweekly scans of our external vulnerabilities, but this does not include anything inside the county network. This system was purchased using state, local cybersecurity grant funds, but these funds are not ongoing. This request is for $45,000 annually. Decision package number 10 is a Cisco MDS switch replacement, which are critical for connecting the county's virtual server infrastructure to storage and departmental shares. It includes a one-time hardware cost of $447,043 requested as new funding for the 26 budget, plus an ongoing annual maintenance cost increase of $20,531. This replacement is classified as a need as the current 10-year-old switches are reaching end of support from Cisco. meaning they'll no longer receive the necessary firmware and security patches. Continuing to use unsupported hardware poses significant security risks and would violate compliance again with the three CJIS, HIPAA, and PCI. While alternative vendors were considered like Brocade, switching would incur a higher overall cost due to necessary infrastructure modifications. This upgrade is essential for maintaining a secure, compliant, and reliable infrastructure. And that is for $447,043 and $20,531 annually. Moving forward to decision package number 11. This is to migrate the SAP, BI, and BW solution to the cloud solution for ERP. This request, the current systems, SAP Business Warehouse, SAP Business Objects, and SAP Business Planning and Consolidation are critical for data warehousing, generating hundreds of financial and HR reports, creating dashboards, and managing budget planning and budgeting. But they will reach their end of maintenance on December 31st, 2027, excuse me. This migration is needed to ensure continued vendor support, maintain seamless integration with already upgraded SAP HR financial systems, and avoid reverting to inefficient manual reporting processes. Failure to avoid reverting to inefficient manual processes, failure to migrate would leave critical functions running on unsupported software, posing operational and security risks. This request is for $260,000, and my slide is incorrect. The recurring cost is approximately $130,000 annually. Moving on to decision package number 12. This is on page 767. This request asks for $20,196 from the 2026 budget to fund the annual replacement cycle for the iPads used for Sedgwick County EMS and fire personnel. This specific funding will replace 36 of the oldest iPads within the total fleet of 145, and this is based on an estimated 4-year hardware lifespan. These are LTE connected iPads and considered a need as they're essential tools used in the field during emergency responses for critical tasks like patient data entry for EMS and inspections for fire. And these use specific applications designed for the iPad interface. The cyclical replacement each 4 years ensures hardware reliability, such as battery life and operating system compatibility, and prevents potential disruption to the vital services due to aging equipment. Windows alternatives were deemed unsuitable for the required applications. And again, this is for $20,196, and this is an annual ask brought back to TRB each year. And thank you for the time with me today. I'm on this is the final one, decision package 13, page 769 in your books. This final package is for the Sheriff's Office to be able to expand their Axon Cloud services to include unlimited third-party evidence storage and integrated video support. This will resolve significant problems with the current digital evidence management system. Currently, evidence is stored across multiple locations, many nearing capacity, which complicates evidence handling, compliance with CORA and retention standards, timely review, and sharing with prosecutors. Viewing diverse video formats requires specific players, hindering investigations. The Axon solution aims to provide a single unlimited cloud storage location for all digital evidence and to enable playback of various video formats directly within the platform. This would improve efficiency, compliance, data sharing, and overall the investigative workflow. The request is for $65,328 annually. And this is a summary showing the total for TRB project requests is $2,906,859. And with that, I see in the audience, we have quite a few folks to support these projects. So I'll stand for questions and lean on them for help.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for those that are here to help if we have some specific questions. Joe, actually, Lori, it might be a better question for you. I remember typically we entertain decision packages. These are incremental and on top of what we have put in as a baseline budget or forecast. Is this included? Are all these 13 decision packages included in our forecast, or are they?
They are, yes. We get the plan and then Carly works to incorporate them and the recurring costs as well.
Okay, so we have assumed these things into the forecast. That's helpful. Okay, other questions? What was our last year's TRB? Do you remember? I tried to find it, but I didn't. It's in here somewhere. Do you have that readily available?
I see Lorian flipping to it too, but last year in your property tax supported funds, TRB was $2,168,152. And for the current year budget, we have 2.6 million included.
Okay. Yeah, other questions? Seeing none.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Okay, we have two presentations left. We can either keep going or take a quick break if anybody needs a break.
Might need a break. Yeah, quick break. Why don't we do 10 minutes? So we'll start right back up at 3.
competitive pay scale, relatively speaking. And we have good collaboration between governments right now. And I'm talking past city, Wichita. I'm talking about Derby, Park City, Goddard, Colwich, Mays, all of our cities. I feel like this commission right now has us lined up to have really good collaborative relationship between all of our government entities. And that's a pleasure to see. Our weaknesses, and Nicole will talk about this in a bit, as we are working through our strategic plan right now, we are hearing over and over, and I feel like our communications are really good. I feel like her office is probably the best office we've had in communication since I've been with the county. And we hear that a lot in the community too. But we can always do better, right? So Nicole has some ideas on how to improve that maybe, and she'll get up and we have a decision package that she's going to want to talk through. I think one of the other weaknesses we have organizationally is succession planning. So the leadership staff has had a lot of discussion about things we can do organizationally to minimize that and to plan for succession through mentorship programs and through different kinds of trainings for our mid-level managers so that we prepare our next generation of leaders in this organization to take over when the time comes. Under opportunities, we have opportunities. I firmly believe opportunities for internal and external consolidations and mergers. Internally, we look and we discuss a lot. And TRB is a classic example of that. We have a group of people, they sit down and they look at all of these software needs on organizationally, what can we share and do better together rather than everybody just work in a silo. So we have opportunities internally, and then we all know, we talk a lot about, the commission talks a lot about externally, the opportunities we have to do better collaborative types of functional consolidations moving forward, so that we see that as a real opportunity for the next 1 to 3 years for the county. And I won't go through the threats again too, right? It's the same ones, tariffs and the instability in the federal grant funding and all the things that we have to react to the last couple of weeks. So those are significant threats that we will continue to battle through together. Our overall budget is flat, and it's mostly personnel, a small contractual budget and a small commodity budget. So no big changes there from last year. And then since we have a decision and a reduction package that deal with comms, I'm going to turn it over to Nicole. She can cover that.
Hi, Nicole.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. It's weird to say afternoon. I'm Nicole Gibbs of Strategic Communications, coming to you today with a decision package request for a communication specialist. I thought I'd give you a quick overview of what some statistics that came out of communications last year in 2024. We had 444 design requests, 169 video projects that were produced. We broadcasted 115 meetings. We covered 127 events. We completed 47 communication campaigns, and those include a media touchpoint, visual, video, graphic, and then also social media. And then we answered 681 media inquiries. So our team, there's 5 of us, and we support all 46 departments, along with the 4 departments that also have additional internal communication support. This communication specialist position that we are asking for will serve as a project manager. They'll support website content and usability, and they will also work with the redesign team that is working on the new design and help support other communication activities. Communications is part of the current strategic plan, and as Tom previously stated, it's grown to be a main focus, and it will be a focus of the updated version coming this year. Effective communication is vital for government transparency, and building trust and support is vital for informed citizen engagement. We did take an opportunity to evaluate 7 counties and cities of like size, and we are currently operating with 2 fewer staff comparatively. While if this position is not added to the staffing table, we are able to continue doing work, but it will be at status quo. While status quo is good, we continue to gain more and more requests for support, and not supporting external and internal communication is not good business. We will have to prioritize requests and either extend our turnaround time or potentially decline support. So if you have any questions on that, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, Commissioner, any questions?
Nicole, can I ask a question just real quick?
Please.
Clarification, this is a part-time position.
Yes, thank you for adding that. This is a 3/4 time position. And it is so that the position has benefits. There's a market out there, especially in communications, for folks that have that. So I think that we'll have a good applicant field if we choose to go that direction.
Who in your office is fulfilling this type of role now? Or is this-
It's kind of on a back burner. It's as we have time to do it. We do have currently Stephanie Birmingham does a lot of our project management, but our website SEO and content is really just as we have time and as things come up.
Nicole, one of the things that I heard from some of our departments was they wanted more autonomy in being able to post some things and do things. I heard particularly from Sedgwick County Fire, but I've noticed, I mean, the content on Sedgwick County Fire on their fire page right now is really good, informative, educational videos. It's been really good. Are they doing that, or is your office doing that?
I appreciate that question. So that is a new combined effort where we meet with Fire District 1 on a monthly basis and discuss with them the statistics of their social media, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and what ideas that we have moving forward. They come in with some ideas and have priorities of things they want to discuss, but it's definitely a collaborative effort. It's like I said, it's monthly. And so it's not just one or the other, it's both of us working together. And having this type of position will help us continue to further that with other departments.
So I think it's been good. I appreciate your flexibility and the adjustment and accommodating them. I know that was a big deal for particularly fire, but I've heard EMS too. So looking at the content and watching, it's been really good.
Sure. It's really easy for folks to say that they are a communications person, but I definitely can't be a fire person. So I'm happy we, as my team and I, are also happy to help with all of the experts and put out content that is easy for the public to understand.
Great. Okay. Other questions? Okay, seeing none.
Okay. And coming to you this year again is a reduction package. We are asking for a reduction in live TV and closed captioning with KPTS. We reviewed this last year. I'm happy to review it again briefly. Since 2020, the KPTS has incurred a significant expense from viewership. A single viewer of KPTS costs between $10 and $20.45, with 2023 being the second most expensive year at $16.04, which for a viewer, and the average falling between $14.50. There's been a notable surge in digital viewership on our platforms. Between 2020 and 2023, KPTS annually totals between 4,300 viewers, where Facebook and YouTube between 2020 and 2024 fall at 170,000 on Facebook and just over 16,000 on YouTube. One thing that's really significant is that the cost for Facebook and YouTube is really low, where Facebook costs the county 0.0048 cents per viewer and the YouTube is 0.0010. This shift underscores fundamental change in audience behavior, emphasizing the need for county government to adapt in its outreach strategies. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions on this? Have you briefed the entire commission on, we had some 221 conversation. Have you briefed everyone yet?
Those will finish up this week and early next.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if this is the right time to talk about this or not, but I mean, one of my concerns about this has been my understanding about the large viewership, which I think was the justification to support this, wanting to be transparent and help people understand what happens in government and that type of thing. I think there's some questions right now about the viewership, and that's my concern. But thinking about this a little bit further, I just wanted to share this with my colleagues that if you don't have Cox Cable, you may not get Wichita Channel 7. If you live in Derby, you used to have Derby Council on Derby's Channel 7 if you had Cox, but if you have AT&T, you didn't get that. You might have to go to the website to see the schools meeting. There's no other place to get that. Anyway, I just thought of, talk about shared services. I have this vision, if you will, of governing bodies around the county working together on a partnership. We would essentially put out on an RFP. We would get someone who's got broadcasting capabilities to either create a channel or dedicate a channel towards government. It's broadcast. And again, it can also be YouTube and Facebook streamed as well. And again, 168 hours a week, they just simply play government meetings around the clock. It was, you can see a schedule and see when things are on. If you want to do the streaming, you can see it on YouTube or Facebook on their channel. You can still do your own website. You can still do your own Facebook and YouTube channel with the government level if you wanted to do that. But this would allow, if you will, a go-to place to get government transparency, see the meetings amongst the cities and school boards or whatever. And I think you could also showcase the cities. You could put educational things on there about how appraisal works or how the election security, or, just think about topics that you could put on there to educate about government. So I can have this vision. And if we were to do that as a partnership, you theoretically could get as many as almost 40 different partners, I think, to make this a channel that would serve all the different governments around. Of course, how to share the cost. I think that's, could be done by how many, how large the organization is, or the size of the budget, or that number of people they serve, or something. To share the cost. But the idea, I think, is to just cast a net, see what the RFP would produce. It might be on broadcast over the air channel 53.1 or something, but at least you can get it and don't have to pay for it. And that, in my opinion, checks the satisfaction. If you're used to KPTS on over the air, it would still be that. And KPTS did broadcast, if I understand correctly, they used to broadcast, at least I think they still do, at least when they were doing it recently, statewide, and they would repeat the meetings numerous times during the week. And so we had what I thought was pretty good visibility, but now I don't know that that's true anymore. I guess my concern is I do think broadcast somehow would be a good goal. I would like to do it for as little money as possible, but make it as good and as valuable as possible to people to see, not just Sedgwick County, but maybe some other things as well. So it's just an idea. I think it's worth talking about and see if there's a way to move forward.
Yeah. Commissioner Bootball.
Thank you, Chairman. And this is something I've thought about for a long time. Is I believe the city of Wichita underutilizes that studio they have in there. And I think it'd be a great opportunity if we could work together on something there. So.
We work with the city of Wichita's communications team quite a bit, and we are in discussions with them about what options we have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Very good. All right. So since you haven't briefed all the commission yet, I'll hold my comments and then we'll regroup sometime in a public meeting and talk about them.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Just one quick comment about the autonomy for departments in communications. We discuss this a lot as a staff, finance and HR, communications, things that we share globally as an organization. I get that 47 departments want autonomy for each of those functions, but there's a fine line you have to thread there to make sure that at the end of the day, the communications for operations of this organization come back to the people. And if we have a centralization to some degree in HR, finance, and communications, we can be assured that communications will come back to the people. You decentralize that too much, and then sometimes that gets lost in the translation. So, but we do want to be serviceable to our departments. We understand how important it is for them to communicate to the public. Okay, commission budget. This is an unfair org chart because the commission has a lot under its wing. It makes it look really simple here, but you have a manager and a counselor and a public works director who are direct reports to you. You have an appraiser who is a quasi direct report to you. And then you also have 2 executive assistants. So, and your staff now, except for your executive assistant, we'll talk about that in just a bit. It is a requirement that we have an elected body within this county to handle government business. So from an executive, legislative, and policy perspective, it is a mandatory requirement that the commission exists. A lot of the functions that you do and a lot of the activities you do are up to you, not necessarily mandated by the state of Kansas, but whatever your calendar can handle and the kind of work that you choose to do for the people. On strengths, we have this commission, we have heard over and over, has a focus on public safety. You want your employees taken care of, and we've done tangible action to do that over the last 2 or 3 years. You universally want to see reduced mill levy, and you want to see a strong infrastructure, in addition to public safety, a strong infrastructure investment. The weaknesses are, and we all grapple with this together, our dependency on the property taxation of our people. We understand actions from the state of Kansas over the last 20 years that have put us into this position. That doesn't necessarily solve it for us, so we'll continue to have that discussion in the future on how we can deal with that. And we do have a bit of a budget deficit rolling into this year that we'll have to reconcile through this budget process. The opportunities are, and we've talked a little bit about this during Tim's presentation on cultural arts, is the ability for a different kind of funding mechanism for quality of life investments. And then the other opportunities are for this commission is to right size government, balancing the services given to the community on how and versus how much we tax people. And I think this commission's very well attuned to that. And it's a real opportunity for us going into the future to help reconcile that. The threats are the rising property valuations, the tariffs, the same thing that are threats to the organization. There is, I think the challenge for this commission, one of the threats is we have to build as best we can a trust of public government to some degree, and we have work to do there. So that's a threat going forward. If people aren't going to believe what we're saying, it makes it very difficult for us to do their job. So that's something that I see as a threat for the commission going forward. Your budget is flat. It is mostly, again, just like the manager's office, it is mostly personnel, a small contractual budget, and a little bit of a commodity budget, a little bit over $1 million. As we rolled through the retirement of our two longtime executive assistant secretary positions, we talked about this a lot, and we have an opportunity, and we want to do a reduction package and basically have the position of Linda and Sherry and Sabrina tag team this and work together to serve the commission first and the manager's office second. We have been in that model since November. I think it's working very well. I think we have an opportunity here to lead by example and save a little bit of money on the front end. So we're going to recommend a reduction package of that one position and have these folks work closely together in the future. So that's one reduction package that we'd like you to consider. And do you have questions about your own office?
Any questions in our office?
Or on manager stuff, anything, any sixth floor stuff that we want to talk about? Any questions?
Yeah, we have comms, manager's office, commission. Any questions? I don't see any.
Okay, good. Randy, you're up.
Okay, our last presentation today is from our county treasurer, Brandy Bailey. We're on page 142 of your binders.
Hi, Brandy.
Oh, how are you?
Welcome. We're glad you're here.
And I'm losing my voice, so no questions, please.
Yes, certainly. Yes.
Okay, so we'll get started. So the treasurer's office. So this is the tax office, which is just downstairs, and that's the general funded part of Sedgwick County. That office has 17.5 employees, 3.5 for treas admin. I have 9 full-time employees in the tax collection office, and then 5 employees in the accounting side of the office. Right now we are currently fully staffed, so I'm good there. And this office is usually pretty good about staying staffed. I think since I've been here, we've only filled 2 positions, so we're really good about keeping our employees down there. Services in our office, mandatory versus non-mandatory. So most of our office is mandatory. We collect real estate, personal property taxes, special assessments, other taxes for townships, school districts, and other taxing authorities. Then we appropriate and distribute those taxes to all the taxing authorities. And then the treasurer's office also acts as the bank for the county. So any department that collects cash, they'll bring it to our office and deposit it with us, and then we'll get it over to the bank. And then we collect and distribute motor vehicle taxes and commercial vehicle taxes. And even though that's a tag office operation, we distribute it out of the tax office. Non-mandatory. So I felt like most of our stuff was mandatory, but I'll show you that we do other things. Right now, I feel like I've done a good job about helping payers with unclaimed property. So working with the state treasurer, trying to get citizens of the county that have unclaimed money, get that found and fill out the paperwork to get that collected. And then we also have a prepayment system down in our office. So we try to work with those that don't have mortgage companies that want to set up and make their payments on a monthly basis. So we've got that in place down there. The strengths in our office, like I said, we're fully staffed. We have established networks. Our staff is pretty much cross-trained throughout the entire department. And then I feel like our staff does a really good job about being hospitable and answering people's questions and just helping wherever they can. Our weakness, we have an outdated tax system, and then the tax system is very complex. And opportunities, we feel like we could use a more friendly website for citizens, meaning maybe more opportunities for them to do more business online instead of coming into the office. Collaborating with fellow elected officials on how to improve the services to our citizens, and then streamline some of the processes. And then our threats, there's always the political challenges. Economic downturn can impact the taxpayer's ability to come in and pay taxes. So therefore that could impact how much revenue we're able to collect in the office. And then cybersecurity. I feel like cybersecurity is a big threat right now. And I'm knock on wood, it doesn't happen, but that could really affect us down there. For our budget request for 26, it's pretty flat. The majority of this decrease, like I think I've heard manager say for commission in his office, was its personnel. And so that's what we'll see is 4% decrease in personnel. When I dove in it to see kind of what that was made up of, it was the employees selecting a different benefits package and then the taxes that are associated with the benefits. The contractuals and commodities. So over the past years, when I dove in this more, it looked like some of the expenses we were charging in maybe the wrong categories, even though the budget was there. So it's just making it more so that way it's charged in the appropriate category is why you see a decrease. And then we did have the ATM down in our office, and that was costing us $6,000 a year, and it wasn't getting the use that we anticipated it got. So we got rid of that in January, and so that will save $6,000. And then, like I said, overall, it's a flat budget. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, any questions for Brandy? I do. How can we best support? You have talked to me about just some visionary changes you'd like to make, particularly in the tag office. And how can the commission, this is your department, you're elected to run it. How can the commission best support what you want to accomplish in the model of the tag office?
So I feel like with the vision that I have, I'm probably going to get a lot of negative feedback or a lot of pushback from citizens. So I think it's just being there and supporting me in the route that I go. I'm exploring options to move towards a one tag office option and to utilize the satellite locations, which don't charge me to be in their space. So working more with those cities, or even the state, the motor vehicle office or the driver's license office, working with them to get another spot in those spots in their areas. So it just be more supportive, being supportive there. And as you hear pushback from citizens, it's hopefully going to reduce the costs of our office, help us to be more efficient and to have all of our employees in one office. So that way, when we're learning of new mandatory updates that are coming from the state, we're not having to try to get it out to two different offices, and maybe it's not the same message because we have to do it on different days. So this way it makes it a little bit easier to communicate.
Well, I would say
between
the
offices.
satellite locations have been a big success. I know in our district, in Park City in particular, I've heard from a lot of people that really like the opportunity to schedule an appointment and go to Park City's, the city hall, and handle some of their title work or some of the tag office functions. So it's been a big success in my view, the satellites. And I know you have a couple other cities that are reaching out, asking you to come down to their city halls.
So Derby, we were going to initially go to the Derby City Hall, but after realizing that there was a driver's license office there, we started working with the state. And so we're doing a really good job in the driver's license office. And I talked to the mayor of Derby this weekend, and he says it's absolutely successful. He loves it and hears great things. I've got Hayesville. ready for us to come. They've got a spot open for us. It's just, I was waiting, kind of trying to see what the legislators did with our fee bill to
Sure.
see how to move forward.
Well, I guess that's my last question. The fee bill, and you've kind of put together 3 or 4 different options. When should the commission, should we staff that conversation, or what's the best way, Lindsay, maybe even Tom, what's the best way to have this discussion? She has 4 options she's wanting to present us as to.
Well, and I think some of those have gotten even more developed since we last had a conversation. I think we're going to have a staff conversation on the 19th. And then I think after that, if you would allow us to get through that, I think then we can
Sure.
talk about the right time to bring it back to staff meeting and talk about it. Because one of the things, and I'll just throw this out to the commission now, one of the ways we want to look at it is because we know the legislation cannot possibly come into place until July 1, really, of 2026. We need to make a decision about the level of subsidy in the general fund that goes to Tag Ops Fund as a part of the 2026 budget. And so whether that is we try and reduce just by half, maybe instead of the full amount, hoping that the legislature does step up next session and provide some relief. That might be a way to not shock the system and try and get to a compromise process. So I think those are the things that we're going to talk through as a staff, and then with Brandy, obviously, and then come back to you with some options based on that, if that's okay with Brandy.
I just want to make
No,
sure that we're supporting.
I'm good with that. I would like to share with you and like to have your input and just work together to make this happen.
Agreed. Well, we want to make sure you know that we're there to support. We have our responsibility of funding your office, but you have the responsibility of running the office. And
Yeah, and I appreciate that. But like I said, once we get to that point, I know there's going to be the pushback from the community. So it's just all of us being on the same page and trying to be positive about
we'll
it.
be on hold. Okay. Anything else?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that is it for today. Tomorrow is Public Safety Day, and we're back at 1 o'clock.
Did I hear a woo?
Wednesday.
So no budget hearing tomorrow, right?
Right.
See you Wednesday. Okay. Tom, anything else? Okay, Lorian, thank you so much.